Welcome to our 5 on 5. Pleased to be joined today by independent candidate for governor, Patrick Starnes. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for being here. Welcome to the Rogue Valley.
I've been sick all weekend, so go easy on me.
No worries. Well, so a little background. This is your first run at state level politics. You're cabinet maker from Brownsville. Why make the run at state politics?
Well, after more than 10 years on school boards, you really feel the effects from Salem. You know, you see these rising costs of PERS and rising healthcare costs that take money from the classroom. So I just felt it's important that somebody with that kind of experience, on the ground, school board experience, get in the race rather than career politicians or short-term state legislators.
Politics seems to be so polarized these days. Where would you describe yourself as where you are on the political spectrum?
Well, non-affiliated voters and independent voters are in the middle. We're often the swing voters in a two-party race. But what's exciting about this race, it will get the largest percentage of in a three-way split. So 38% of Oregon voters are not with either of the two parties. So that's a very good opportunity for an independent to win the governor's race.
So when you're describing your political views to people you're meeting for the first time, obviously you're making the rounds as you have to, as you know, making a first run of state politics. How do you describe yourself politically? Would be as simple as that, as you're between the two? Yeah,
I would say that we're all three moderates. Actually, you know, there's no real arch conservative or arch liberal. I would say all three of us are moderates in this race. But what distinguishes me is that I'm not accepting big money. We've capped our donations to $100 per person. So, because my main focus is to get big money out of politics in Salem.
Okay, and for a lot of people who don't follow the ins and outs of Salem politics, probably you, me, and 99% of our viewers watching, is there an area where you think special interest groups have taken control of the state, if that's even to that extent?
I would say there's not an area they haven't taken control. I mean, from the big corporate influences on one side to the big union influences on another. One example is recently the initiative to stop a food tax, like a junk food tax on the stores. The grocery stores spent $2 million to get those signatures. I've met some of those signature gatherers, and they're from Pennsylvania, they're not from Oregon. And the initiative was not sponsored by regular Oregonians, it was sponsored by a corporate interest group. And now they want Oregon voters to vote in their interests, which I won't be one of those voters.
We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Okay.
We'll have much more in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our 5 on 5. Again, we're here with independent candidate for governor, Patrick Starnes. So you referenced it earlier, Mr. Starnes, 38% of registered voters in the state are not Democrat or Republican. So how do you convince those folks to vote independent, to vote for you this fall when so many seem to either go Democrat or Republican when the time comes, if you will?
Well, there's a huge frustration with the two-party system, as you know, and there's a huge frustration with the big money influencing politics and wagging the dog, as one could say. And not only are we trying to reach those non-affiliated voters and independent voters, but also those angry voters that quit voting. I mean, look at the primary, it was only 30% turnout, which is terrible, especially with a vote by mail. We should have had an 80% turnout. And so we're reaching out to those disenfranchised voters that are really fed up with the two-party system and the big money system. So with that message, I think we're going to bring new voters back to the election this November.
So how do you go about, because being a newcomer to state level politics, as we talked about, how do you go about meeting everybody? You can't knock on literally every door in the state. There's only so much time, and you have to, you know, you're competing against a couple people who are at the state level are known, if you will.
Well, like you said earlier, we've been traveling all over the state, from Ontario on the Snake River to Tillamook on the coast, and from the Columbia Gorge, we hope to be down to the Klamath River. But I would turn the question back to you, Craig, that one of the ways to reach voters is to have the debates open. And we're hoping KOBI invites me to the debates this October, because I need to be able to reach those non-affiliated voters.
Well, I could certainly understand the request. I know we're working to get a debate.
Okay,
that's a question that I cannot answer.
Right. I still haven't been invited, so that's why we're here, is to see if we could be invited to the debate, because we do represent a large third of the voters. that aren't with the two-party system. So, and we are a major party candidate, which the law requires that major party candidates be invited.
Now, since you're in kind of the central portion of the state in Brownsville, are you spending a lot of time up in the Portland area where the numbers are? Frankly, I mean, we've all seen maps in past gubernatorial races where it's almost a sea of red, and there's that little blue pocket right there in Multnomah County, and that can sometimes be all it takes to win.
Well, as you know, there's 5 congressional districts, and so we're trying to spread ourselves out across those 5 congressional districts, and we're having a 36 county campaign. So we are not just focusing on Multnomah County, even though we will be there often, and we have a lot of supporters there. They are a county, for example, that passed a campaign finance reform initiative that's countywide. Unfortunately, a couple words in it got the courts to throw it out. So they're hoping to re-initiate that effort. And also, just downriver from them in Columbia County is a new initiative that deals with Columbia County voters voting for campaign finance reform in that county, in Scappoose, you know, in those communities along the lower Columbia.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Craig.
it. All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back.